Good evening, everybody, and welcome to today's special broadcast. We're taking a look at the Weardale and Teesdale Railway Network. I'm joined by Derek Siddle.
Hello.
Tell us what you do, Derek.
I am head of content here at Dovetail Games. I am responsible for delivering and producing the content that the team create and that we release weekly.
Superb. So this route's been a bit of a pet project for you, Derek. It's been a bit of a journey, hasn't it, getting this one out?
It's been a very long journey, yes.
So I guess before we get on to the route, it might be a good idea to what's your background, Derek? What in terms of how long have you been working with Train Simulator, and tell us about Derek?
So I've been with the software since 2006 when I joined Kuju. It was called Rail Simulator then. Once that was released in 2007, I joined RSDL, or the RSDL was formed out of the ashes of that team. There were 7 of us. We were at RSDL for 2 years, and then from RSDL, RS.com got made, and then we turned into Dovetail Games. So I've been with this software 9 years now.
Fantastic. And what sorts of things have you done with the software, and have you always been head of content?
So I started off as lead artist to begin with, then studio head, as there was only 7 of us, so a grand title for a very small team. Once we started to grow, it became clear that focus needed to be on development, so I headed up 1 or 2 teams, and from that, as the teams grew and Dovetail or railsimulator.com grew, I focused on the train simulation development, and so now there's a team of 25 to 30 people. Wow. All delivering content for Dovetail, but under my guidance. Yes,
that's superb. And you've got a bit of history making routes as well, because I think you've led the charge on a number of the route projects.
So the very first route that I could probably kicked off was the Isle of Wight, which I think many of our users probably own and enjoyed. But that really set the benchmark for what we wanted to produce after the initial 5 or 6 routes that we made for Rail Simulator. We were still learning right then. I mean, even the tools weren't finalised at that point. But we wanted to set a benchmark that would hold up for a number of years, that we could try and better, but at least we wouldn't be ashamed of what we made. So we spent a good 6-7 months creating the Isle of Wight, and even though it was only 20 miles, I think it was still. I think it still holds up quite well today. So a testament to the guys who worked on it.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yes, there was other routes that I've worked. Yeah, Mariah's Pass, Woodhead, I think was a labour of love too, and Sherman Hill and a few others. But essentially, I let the more talented people create the routes, and I kind of steer them in the right direction.
That's brilliant. I think you've been working on the Weardale route for how many years have you been working on that one?
Almost,
using the word working perhaps loosely.
Almost as long as I've been with the software. So the very first asset I made was 2006, maybe early 2007, when we were testing the tools, the early development tools. So I made something that was important to me, just in my own time, so I could test what the user's experience would be, as opposed to what the development, because we had development tools in house, and it was quite often we would have a different results of what happened in house to what happened with the live software. So I started creating the signal box, the e-signal box at Bishop Auckland, just because it was an image from my childhood. So the route didn't start then, but essentially the cogs were turning of maybe I could do something in my spare time with the software.
So this really it's a route that's sort of been bubbling away, simmering away for quite a long time, hasn't it, really?
I guess 7 to 8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah,
it's
2008 is when it began in earnest.
Wow, that's still a long time. Okay, so let's just have a quick look. This is the overview of the Weardale Teesdale network, and as you can see, network really is the right word for it. What are some of the key locations on this network?
So as you can see, the Bishop Auckland's in the centre of the hub, and then like a wheel, I guess what you've got is got Durham in the north, Darlington in the south, and then Barnard Castle, and I guess way ahead with and the scenic line up to Weardale and Teesdale. But it all focused around Bishop Auckland, and because Darlington meant so much to me too, that it was key that the track headed down to Darlington.
Fantastic. Okay, so Derek's put together some fantastic photographs which sort of outline the real location and some of the history and really the inspiration behind why the route was created and what was really important to Derek. So I thought we'd start on this photograph that of Derek's. So maybe you can tell us a bit about what's important here.
Well, this is the one image that actually started the whole thing. So that is the signal box that I started modelling to begin with. But that image is just taken from the bridge that goes over the track at Cockton Hill and Newgate Street merge there. So as a young child sitting on my father's shoulders, I used to look over that bridge and watch the trains go through the station. It didn't quite look as grand as that, and we'll get to that in a second, but over the years, that's the one image that I've aspired to create. And I think, we talk about making a route, but I never really intended to make a route at all. It was all about trying to recreate this area and the station in its grandest form.
Okay, so let's move on. So this one looks a little bit less grand.
So yes, this is from I think 1982, and this is probably as a child how I remember it. You can see that the footbridge is gone, and the clock tower is also gone, and the canopies have all gone. But it was still in workable use. Platform 3 there, where the 105 was the main platform used, and platform 1 in the shed off to the left was no longer used. But again, the signal box being front and centre, it's a shame that you could see that it was mothballed.
Yes.
And you can, I guess, the next image, if you just click over, you could see that the main building had gone, so all you were left with is empty platforms. There's an institute building that was behind that. The approach road is still there, but you can see the two double doors in the centre of the image. As a child, I remember walking down those. There's a walkway that went down to platform 1. And it's sad to see it in that state. And I couldn't believe that something would, in such a short space of time, I think that's 1984, so in 2 years, it was just all taken apart.
So then, next
and
one?
So then here we are in, I think this is 87, it might be 88. It's there or thereabouts. So it had all gone. I think the Platform 3 building is still there off to the right, but you can see that what's there now on Platform 1, we were left with a little shelter with a little thin platform, and it's quite sad. But again, just take it to the next one. So this is what we've got. It's a little bit different. I guess it looks a little bit, more depressing than it really is, but if that's what's there now, you've got the overriding view of B&Q. Morrison's is just off to the right. And there's a trust, I think, with the station right now where they're making a much greater effort to tidy this up a little bit, but it's still a far cry from what was there in the 50 years previous.
Fantastic. Yeah, really. As you can see the decline of that. Okay, so that's sort of the key area for you. And I know when we've been talking about it previously, you've said that this route didn't really start out to be what it ended up being, did it?
No, not at all. It was all about recreating the Bishop Auckland Triangle, which the station as it was quite. I wouldn't say it was unique because there was 2 or 3 of them around in the country, but essentially it was in a triangle so that steam trains wouldn't have to go to a turntable and turn around. They would just run them around the 3 platforms, and it would be facing the correct way again. So I really just wanted to recreate that. So we laid some track, and we had around the station. Oh, that's pretty good. But it'd be quite nice to at least run some trains through the station and then have them end at portals. So if you click to the next one, we can see that this is about a 5-mile area of Shildon, which all these places mean something to me, I guess. So Shildon is where a lot of my dad's side of the family are. West Auckland is where my dad and my granddad lived. Camden is where near where my best friend lived. Bishop Auckland, obviously, and Netherley is where my mum's parents are from. So, it was quite nice to be, okay, I will make the town. I will make the surrounding villages and I'll make the town with the station in the centre. And that was my aim. I thought that'll be it, no more.
So, what went wrong?
Well, as you can see, then suddenly Adam Lucas, who was working with me, said, "Oh, it would be quite nice to be able to run, one of the trains somewhere." So then I had to think about, where do I really want the train to go? So the River Wear was I used to go fishing with my dad, so we used to go up to a place called Burnhope Reservoir, which is just off to the just up in the Dales by Weir Head, and my dad used to fish the river up towards Whitley Weir. So, okay, the track follows the river all the way up there. So I thought, well, that could be quite interesting. And the freight train still ran through there up until the 93, I think it was. So I thought, yeah, I could recreate that. So Adam laid the track for me for free. And then, okay, that's it, no more. 23 miles up to Weir Head, surrounding towns, that'll be it.
So when you said no more, what did you really mean?
So I kind of then went, well, Bishop Auckland isn't the end point, so where would you take it to? So, Darlington being obviously the main station in the area. I was a bit of a Darlington football fan, and it was where we used to get the train from Bishop Auckland to Darlington as kids and go to the cinema. So yes, I thought take it to Darlington. That's 32 miles worth of track we've got laid down there now.
So
it's just gone off screen.
That's better.
There we go. So we laid a little bit to Crook. I thought, that'd be, just put some spurs on. Took the track round to Spennymoor, because all these lines, most of them are country walks now. So took it round to Spennymoor, up to Hunwick over the viaduct and Crook, because it was a good end point to the track. So that was quite nice.
Gradually, these legs are all extending out a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. But
Okay.
there was only a few mile in there. That was fine.
So then, Barnard Castle happened.
So then, what happened was people. I started working with a guy called Robert Payne, and we worked together on Woodheads. And he was aware of my route, and he said, "Well, maybe we could lay a bit more track." And he's obsessed with laying track, so you can't contain him. So he goes, "Okay, well let's take it to Barnard Castle." Okay, that'd be quite good, because it would go up through West Auckland, it would go through to Evenwood, and then obviously up to Barnard Castle, which is quite a nice part of the world. Again, the trains went through from Bishop Auckland to Barnard Castle, so it made absolute sense. So
I think the next link seems obvious.
So, well, obviously, because the main trains went from Darlington to Barnard Castle and across to Penrith, so it made sense to obviously join it up and have a little bit of a,
as you do, and
circular.
Carried on.
We didn't really mean to do this. This was a 10 mile up to Weardale and Teesdale. It was It just went in. He did that without really consulting with me. I'm blaming him for this totally. This was not my call. He just, in fact, he wanted to go further, but I tried to rein him in.
And then finally,
so Durham was his call. It was, well, we can't end it here. We need to take it somewhere else. And obviously, some of the thought was taking it to Saltburn, or maybe from Darlington down to Richmond, or even from to Middlesbrough, but taking it to Durham, so at least there was a good north to south journey. That Durham to Darlington, obviously on the East Coast Main Line, was obviously very popular, but on engineering works, whenever there was engineering works on the line, on the East Coast Main Line, a lot of the trains used to get routed through Bishop Auckland, so we did have the F4s go through, the Deltics, a lot of the Pacifics did go through Bishop Auckland, so it wasn't inconceivable that you would see some very big trains going through the station and across the viaduct towards Durham. So
it really sounds like an amazing place to grow up train spotting.
Well, it would have been, but unfortunately, from my point of view, I was born in '72, so at this point, most of the lines had been closed down. So
Right.
you really only had that core route when you take it back to, say, Eastgate, Stanhope, down through towards Darlington. That would have been the only thing left as a child. So my overriding memories would have been of the 37s and the 101s going through Bishop Auckland.
So what sort of time period is the route set in?
Well, again, I wanted BR Blue, but of course BR Blue's setting was way too late for any of this network. But it's more my overriding memory of the trains I used to see as a child. So I thought, well, how far back? I don't remember Steam now, but I've got a Steam network. So BR Green seemed to make perfect sense. So We Ahead closed in 53, and most of it was all gone by 68. So it's roughly between 50 and 65. Okay. I think that's a good time period.
And BR Green, as we shall be seeing shortly.
BR Green, because, and we'll get to this in a second, there was a number of diesels that as a child I remembered, and those are the ones I wanted to recreate.
Okay, so we'll come to that shortly. Okay, so you've got some more images that you've given us. Can you talk us through some of these images?
So when I realised that I was actually going to do this, so we laid the track up to We Ahead, I researched the whole line. I drove up one weekend, and over a long weekend I walked the line. It's 23 mile. I walked the bits I could and drove the bits in between. So here we are, St John's Chapel. I think we're at one of the bridges overlooking. You can see the line where it would have been going down south. Obviously sheep everywhere, but you can still see that it's a beautiful part of the world. That it's like 7 o'clock in the morning when I started, and I finished at 9 o'clock in the evening in the dark at Bishop Auckland. But if you click to the next one, there's Stanhope Station that's still in use. It's quite a nice station there. They run specials from Stanhope down to Walsingham still to this day, I think. And there's the bridge looking across the Weir. The railway crosses the Weir quite a lot. I think there's 6 or 7 bridges across, and the railway runs alongside the river all the way. Mm-hmm. Here we are just outside of Walsingham. It's a bridge on a slope at an angle. So it was kind of some of the challenges that we have recreating these worlds is the number of different assets that we have to create. As you know, we have standard bridges. We have bridges that we can distort, but when you get bridges that are distorted and very bespoke, the asset count for this route is huge. So I took photographs of everything I thought I would need. Thousands of photographs. So here we are at Witten Park Viaduct. You can see it's quite unique. It's got a road bridge that goes through one of the arches at an angle. And the next shot, I think, is me on top of it. A little bit worrying that they still cross this bridge, actually. You can see the... it's a little bit wobbly going across, but they still run freight trains across there today, so it must be stable. And here we are, we on the other side of Bishop Auckland now, heading towards this is a bridge at Eldon, just going towards Shildon Tunnel, as you can see there. So these photographs were taken when there was very little traffic on the route. I'm just pop my head across the fence, and in the route, this is one of the locations I was keen to recreate. It's strong memories from my childhood where we used to play. Just off to the right here, there's old hills where we used to ride our bikes up and down the sort of I don't know what they were, sort of like old slag heaps. I guess that's what they were.
Yeah. It's quite an imposing tunnel.
Yeah, it was. So that's it was created 1843. I think that's the date when that came through, because it didn't go all the way to Bishop Auckland to begin with. It stopped at South Church, and then they had real trouble crossing the Gauntless. There's a huge embankment that you'll see when you drive your scenario. That the reason why it stopped there was because they just couldn't traverse the huge gap.
Okay, so that's your research trip.
Well, that's one of them, yes.
One of the many.
Research trips.
So let's have a look at some of the included stock and why.
So the 101, obviously, as a child driver, we rode in these, and it was clear that I was never going to be able to make the route at a speed I wanted to. So how could I move these things along? How could I actually generate or create the things I wanted to create in a manageable time frame? So the 101 was the last in the series that I made, but it was the passenger service. So what I wanted to do is a shunter, a freight train and a passenger train. And I picked the three that I've got the strongest memories of. The 101 is obviously but I don't remember in BI green, it was all BI blue with a full yellow front. But it was the OH Shunter, which was where I learned, it was the first train that I modelled in 2007. And the first bit of DLC that we released for Rail Simulator. But as a child, I used to see this thing. It had a funny old noise to it which I'd never really. What on earth's that? You know, and because it had the stripes on, which was different. As a child, it had a profound effect on me where I'd not seen anything like it. And when I got into Rail Simulator, I was keen, a little bit like the station. I was keen to recreate this train more than the others. And next up, the 37, which is, I think, my favourite train to drive. It is, obviously, it's an older model. It's now 2009 is when I modelled this, or 2008, I think, actually. But it is a growling, grunting sort of machine, which is, it's just great. And I've got memories of it pulling PCA wagons, V-dip, I don't know what you call them, but the V PCA wagons. And that used to, when I used to stand on that bridge, that was the train that used to come down from Eastgate, from the cement works. And that's the bit that used to hear the whole town. You would hear the train from a few miles away. You would go through the town and you would hear it disappear as well. So as a child, we would sit there and watch those trains come in and out.
Yes. And of course, those three trains, they've been available previously, and they were originally modelled because you were interested in this route, weren't they?
Well, yeah, I didn't tell them that at the time. It's I had this plan, which I thought, if I don't tell anybody, maybe it might come true, it might happen. But I worked my way slowly through the rolling stock and then give them no reason not to help with the route, not realising that it would take so many years.
Well, yeah. But there is another piece of rolling stock in the pack, isn't there? So tell us a bit about the 25.
So the 25... again, I don't have strong memories of the 25 because by the time they'd moved, I was keen that when we did this route, that because the 101 and the 37 and the 08 have been out for such a long time, I was keen that we didn't just recycle old locomotives with the route. So 25s of that era were commonplace around Bishop Auckland and the northeast, and of course the brake tender as well. So not only did I want to bring the rolling stock that I modelled, but I was keen that there was a route with a new bit of traction that people could drive. So it wasn't just looking like we were farming, stock that we'd already made.
Yeah.
And again, we put Mark 1s in there, and there's a couple of new freight wagons as well. But the 25 is a nice little addition, I think.
Okay, so that's the tractive effort. I think the next thing we wanted to have a look at was you've got some comparison shots here, which are really interesting. Yeah,
so there are a number of big stations and little stations along the route. Now, this is Pierce Bridge between Darlington and Barnard Castle. And I picked this one because it's one of the first examples I made as so what is the standard? What do I want my route to look like? I know I've discussed this on my blog, and we've chatted about it too. It's not so much a photograph. It's more of a painting than a photograph. So if you click to the next image, I was keen that I kept the feel of the station, but I wanted to put my own twist on it. If I didn't like something in the route, if there was a post in the way, or if there was something I didn't quite like, then I would remove it because I felt it spoilt the piece of artwork that we were playing, because you don't drive photographs, you don't interact with photographs. You can look at them, but this you move around, you drive through it. So I wanted the landscape to be how I wanted it to look like. Okay. So here we are, Weir Head. Again, this was quite a nice little scene to put together. It looks obviously nothing like that now, but the house, I think, the station is a house now. Completely overgrown, but you can see that I've kept the flavour of this in the routes. If you click on the next one, just to see that you can see up to the Dales. All of this is in sunshine now. It was not often like that. It missed most of the time. But you can see that it's very much like the photograph, and there are something like 37, 38 stations along the route.
That's a lot of stations. So I think the last comparison then is Darlington.
Yes, Darlington, which unfortunately for all my sins, I made the first one for Cujo Rail Simulator, which we had something like 5 days to knock it together, which I wasn't particularly happy with. But we didn't have Google Earth. We didn't have the things we kind of take for granted now when we're putting these stations together. Now, I can't even take credit for Darlington. There's a guy who sits next to me, Chris Lillington, who put this and Durham together. Well, he did a fantastic job, and I kind of feel sorry for him. He had to listen to me. No, that's not quite right. Do this, do that. Shut up. So it is a really nice station. He did a really good job on this, and because the track layout all got redone by Robert, the station is now correct in the right shape and the right length, whereas initially it wasn't quite as it should have been.
Okay. So, I think we're in the last section now, so I think this is just a few screenshots from around the route.
Yeah, this kind of just gives you a flavour of where it's at right now. So this is Darlington looking from the south, and I've got Kevin, a guy in one of my teams, who keeps telling me to change the green to the blue, so that will probably happen. He won't leave me alone until he's done that. But yeah, Darlington is a very, very impressive station. I think if we want to extend this, like as I said, if we can extend it to Middlesbrough, Saltburn, or take it down to Richmond, this is a really good, strong place to start a new route from. North Road is a place where we used to get off as children because it was closest to the cinema at the time. But again, it's a museum now, and I think that's where Locomotion Number 1 is housed there. Shildon Station, which is it's a bit depressing kind of place, but this is where the museum now. So the museum is just beyond where that bridge is there, and the station is pretty much that same layout. But you can see the tracks going off to the right, which would have went to the Shildon Works and where the Mason crossings are. But it wasn't a piece of track that we put in. Stanham Station is still there, still pretty much looks like that.
I think we saw a photograph of it earlier, didn't we?
We did, yes, that's right. And it's a really there's a Weardale project. I think have ploughed a lot of money into that, so it's well kept, really nice. And this is Durham. This is again the Durham Old Station. So if you were at Durham now, you wouldn't see. It looks very different to this, but very nice shot. Shame I didn't take a screenshot of the other angle where you can see the cathedral. But a very nice station again, modelled by Chris. Did a really good job on that. And here we are at Bishop Auckland. This is the whole reason why I made the route. Now, one of the reasons why I wanted to make that station was, I'm into my oil paintings, and I love recreating the scenes from the old town. But there are only a few photographs. Well, there seem to be only a few photographs of late. There seems to be a lot more photographs coming out of the woodwork. Lots of Facebook pages of Bishop Auckland and the history of the station, where I'm finding that actually there are more people sharing their photographs than ever before. But as an artist, I want to be able to take my camera, and it's a shame you can't walk first person around this, but I've modelled it so that you can walk through the building, you can walk through the approach. So now if I wanted to paint a painting, I can move the camera around and find the perfect shot for me, pause whatever trains I wish in the scene, and then I can kind of live out.
It's a real time machine, isn't it?
It is, and I think that's it. What does Railworks or Train Simulator mean to me is it is a form of time travel. It is. I very rarely think of, I wish I could drive that train as it is right now. What people generally say is, I would have loved to have seen it in its heyday. I would have loved to have, and this allows you to do that. This allows you to actually drive as you wouldn't be able to have this experience anywhere else. Mm-hmm. And I think that the guys who have worked on this, people say it's my route, it started off as my route, but it's not my route. There's been a lot of talented people putting in a lot of hard work on this route over these last 2 or 3 months, and there's a guy, Stuart, who laid a lot of the content for this for the best part of 9 months alone in his home, and he did an amazing job. And then we had to get the signals working. We had to put a lot of work into getting the semaphores working, and there's a guy, Dan, who pulled the project together and told me to stop worrying about building. There's a building in that image there that I haven't finished yet. Do we need it? And most of the time it's, yes, we need it, but he often would rein me in, and he's the one person, like, if it wasn't for him, I don't think this route would have got finished, because I still would have been worrying about buildings a mile, 2 mile away from the track.
It's always the danger with a project that you're passionate about, isn't it?
I never knew where to stop, and that's why, and until Dovetail helped me finish it, it would never have got finished, because 1 or 2 hours every evening, you just can't complete it. It takes, I don't know, maybe 26 to 30 man months to create a route, and of this length, and the math doesn't add up, does it? It's especially when you're creating all the assets. You can lay the content if it's available, but if you're making the assets and you're laying the content, it's too big for one person. And and yes, I was the driving force of this route, but there's a team behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Okay, so that's the an overview of the route. Thanks, Derek. So let's have a quick look. Just a reminder of the locos that are in the pack. So there's the Class 25. The 08 for the shunting, the Class 37, it's one of my favourites, I have to say, and the Class 101 for your passenger services, and of course there are Mark 1 coaches for your loco hauled stock as well, and a fair section of freight in there as well, isn't there?
Yes, there's a wall flat I think we snuck in there, but yes, there's a good selection of there's a couple of new brake vans, obviously the brake tender that we mentioned. And then we tried to put period stock in there. It's a shame we didn't get the PCAs in, but it was just too late. But you've got press flows, and you've got a lot of mixed freight mostly, and of course coal. Coal and minerals was the main freight of the route.
Okay, so I'm just going to start the game up now, and it's going to shamelessly remind you that the steam summer sale is on.
I think I've got it all.
Anyway. So we're going to run a scenario. It's actually a variation of one of the scenarios that comes with the route, and we're going to be driving a different unit to the ones we've been talking about, because there is a twin pack. So can you tell us about the twin pack, Derek?
So the twin pack, as you saw in one of the earlier photographs, as well as the 101 that used to be involved with the route, the 105 was often seen at Bishop Auckland. So it's obviously a Craven unit. Not as many units were made, but it was part of the route. And I was keen that we didn't recycle anything that had gone before. We don't have a Craven in the game, so we turn around. Very well modelled with passenger view turnaround, because I think you can do it in the cab. You can see, still work in progress, so we need to get the passengers in there. But it was nice to have something that would sit alongside the 101. So, you probably do get sick of seeing the same unit, but the people's favourite position.
That was absolutely, yes. That's my favourite position.
I know I got a lot of grief in the early days about the 101 not being able to have the passenger view. Never mind.
Right, so we can change the head codes, the destination boards with Control Shift 5 and 6. So you've got a wide variety. I'll turn the headlights on. Just waiting for that signal to go green, which it now has. So I'm going to release the brakes and move the control forward and put it in gear. And away we go. So where are we at the moment, Derek?
So this is just coming out of Bishop Auckland, heading towards Shildon. You can see that bridge there. If you just turn around, that is the view I've got as a child, and that is where I used to sit on my dad's shoulders, as I said, and watch the trains, the freight on those left lines, the up and down lines, and the passengers come out of platform 1, which is where you're coming out of, and platform 3 to the right.
This is something common with a lot of steam routes with earlier routes, is these big complex gantries.
Yes, the semaphore signals is, and again, LNER gantries that were made for this. The track to the right goes off to Barnard Castle and West Auckland, and then we're going straight ahead towards Shildon.
So as Eric's just said, our next station is in speeding here a little bit. Is Shildon in about 2 3/4 miles.
You're not lying about your driving, are you?
I know my driving is special.
So here we're going through again. All of this has changed. It's housing now, but that was Stevenson's yard, and on your left would have been Wilson's Forge. Big places. That's a huge Asda now. A lot of key areas in this world. My secondary school is off to the left. My junior school is down to the right. So I've done my very best to model the whole of the town. And you know, if this was one of the routes internally, we would never be modelling all of this. But you can see South Church in the distance there. As you can see, the line. So this is the crossing where they had trouble. So you spin the camera around a little. That huge embankment there over the Gornless. They had trouble building that. The line over to the left is going up towards Spennymoor and up towards Ferry Hill and the East Coast Main Line, which we don't extend it to Ferry Hill. It ends at Spennymoor. So we're just approaching Bourne Hill, and this is where the station used to be for South Church. This is where the line originally ended.
Keep an eye on the signals. It looks like we've got a green signal here. The distance is also off.
Yeah, it is work in progress. Anybody does spot any faults, please let us know.
Definitely, yeah. If you see anything, any comments, your feedback is very gratefully received. This is an advanced preview. It's in the latter stages of development, but I think we've all been really excited to get this one out to people, haven't we? Because it's been a lot of time talking about it, and it's good to finally show.
It is, and it's kind of, you know, you said we've been talking about it. I've been blogging about it for like 8 years now, I think, and I think my users have just didn't believe it was going to come out. Going towards the big boy there. So that's the, I think the Black Boy line there goes off towards Eldon. So we've just crossed over. Across the Eldon to the left, and Shildon Tunnel towards in front. Again, that line doesn't extend very far. It goes off to a portal, so we can get rid of the eye. As you can see, the track to the right, that's what goes around towards Barnard Castle. So there's a triangle within a triangle there. You can see that joins at Fielden Junction, I think it is, and just at West Auckland they meet the track that we passed earlier. Here we are heading towards Shildon Tunnel. As a child, this is the bit where I used to play on my bike and get chased by the local Eldon lads.
Instrument lights as well on the
yeah,
dials.
They wouldn't have been very powerful, I guess, on these units, but they are there. Makes a difference. We had the conversation about whether we should add them to the 08, but obviously we wouldn't have had them, but the cab light, I guess, would suffice. It's always a compromise, or do you want to drive the 08 in the dark and see the dials, or do you not? You kind of, what should we do? People generally want it prototypical, but it hampers gameplay, so still it made a big difference when we got cab lights.
Yes, it does. It makes just it's just a nice. It looks really nice. But we shouldn't be driving with the cab.
No, not at all.
I think I'm going to be coming in a bit late to shoulder. We've been talking, and I've been driving slowly.
Well, I think there was a relaxed attitude to travel in the north. So here we are. We're just coming out at the southern end of the tunnel, coming out into Shildon, which essentially was there was a little bit of rivalry, I think, between Bishop Auckland and Shildon. I don't think they liked each other very much. this is an aqueduct. It's not in our game, but it is in the.
Look at the 25, and I've stopped.
Why have you stopped?
I was watching the 25. We'll get to Shildon eventually.
So I was here not so long ago. It's like maybe 2 months ago. We did a quick research trip to make sure we put in some of the stone sheds that are there, because this is where the museum's at. So, you know, it's a popular destination for rail enthusiasts. And the station still, you know, the layout is still exactly the same. Bridge is ever so slightly different, and you know, you don't have the old stone building anymore. But essentially, the platforms are laid out the same. They don't look very happy with you.
I wouldn't be either, to be honest.
Who's that handsome chap?
Of course, now that people have seen you on the stream, they're going to recognise you all over the place, aren't they?
They'll realise that. Yeah, so the guys, I mean, so there's some wagons in here that have got my name on it. This isn't a case of me putting myself or my name in the game. They've done it on purpose. They think it's funny. So I think if the route is well and well received, they'll take the credit. If it's panned, then they'll say it's all Derek's fault, and that's fine.
Some quite lovely signal gantries. Something we haven't really seen on.
No,
on
this
any
is. I
roads.
mean, since Woodhead, I think we've shied away from it a little bit. I know West Somerset Railway we touched on it, but there's been a number of script improvements that we've worked on since the release of that route. Hopefully we'll be able to further test this and maybe retrofit it. Certainly makes a big difference.
It's 37.
Indeed. So here we are at the yards that we use for the rolling stock, and that in the location of where locomotion is now, the museum. Looks nothing like this now.
So for those that don't know, what's the history of locomotion number 1?
So locomotion number 1 was the. Let me get this right. It was placed on the tracks at Hindon, which you're heading towards now, in 1825, I think, September 1825, if I get my date correct, which was Stephenson's first locomotive, and it was the first passenger hauled train, I think. Somebody will surely correct me on that if I'm wrong. And it ran as part of the Stockton-Darlington Railway, which this is the part which forms part of that route, and it diverges at Shildon to go up over Bristleton and then down towards Etherley, which is part of the route. But we didn't model that area of the track because it was lifted long before this, as the new route through Shildon Tunnel. So so it was placed on the tracks at Hindon and driven, I think, the 20 odd miles to Stockton, and it is now housed in North Road.
It was the first passenger service.
I think it was the first service that was designed for the public use, not for the owners. So I think there'd been obviously locomotives that were pulling freight or even passenger service, but they were for the owners. This was the first public service. But I think you probably had many companies scrambling to claim the prestige of being the first, when it was a time when there was so much happening within those sort of 10-20 years. An explosion of rail travel was happening.
So one of the other things we've had a lot of feedback about on some of our other releases is the view angle and so forth. And I noticed one of the things is, to take the HUD off here, there's been some big improvements in what you can see on it.
Yeah, I mean this is all subjective, and it's some might like it, some might not. So we've changed the field of view so that we can try. As you're driving, you can see the controls on the deck, on the desk. But as you're driving, as you see, you're not using those controls. You're using the HUD, which
I'm using the HUD because I'm just not very good.
Yes, you and me both. But you can, if you change the field of view, I think you can. Can you scroll with the mouse? You can see that. I think that's where it would have been on the 101, and we've tried to pull it back so that you can see more. I think people like to see the controls and look out the window at the same time. We get a number of requests for that. But again, it's with it being subjective, we'll please some people and I think disgruntle a few others. But we'll see how that goes.
Exactly. We've got to try things and find a happy medium. I think the ability to zoom in should make it a nice balance.
Yeah, I mean, when you zoom in, you can obviously see the aspects of the signal, so that makes a big difference. When you've got the fisheye, it makes it very difficult to see what you're looking at with some of the signals. How's your speed?
My speed is very low.
Are we going to make it to Darlington?
We are going to make it to Darlington.
We're coming up to Heinton, surely.
Yeah, Heinton's just about half a mile away.
You managed to stop. I think I struggle with some of these DMUs. I'm never really quite sure how to drive them, how I should be slowing down or speeding up. I think I drive a little bit like you, where you just rag them.
Badly.
Drive it up and thrash it around. I'm not really. Maybe a couple of lessons is in order. How are you doing?
Maybe that's something some of our viewers can put together. Some YouTube tutorials on how to drive the multiple units.
Yeah, I mean,
show us how you drive them. I think that would be
with the Class
really
37, it's a little bit easier. But with the gears, it's always obviously you can tell with the audio sometimes. But the
of course, I'm not hearing the audio.
Yeah. What point do you I think it's more of the slowing down, not so much the slowing up, but when you move down through the gears to control your speed. That's always useful. Otherwise, my scores are terrible.
Yeah, my score's going to be terrible. 2.5 minutes late here.
That is pretty bad. So, Heinton is pretty much as it was. I think the canopies have gone now, but the layout is the same. Obviously, Newton Aycliffe hadn't been built by this period, which is a new town that was built between Shildon and Heinton. That's smooth.
One of the things that I always like to see on the routes is all the clutter down the side. Just makes it look like more of it's been brought to life.
Yeah, we're still in process of that. So what's happening right now is a number of the stations are still lacking clutter. You can see that there's no fire buckets, there's no clocks, there's no posters. As we put the first version into QA, it was important that we get people sorting out playing the scenarios and testing those, and getting English lockdown, and then the polished pass of clutter can happen a little bit later.
That's a pretty bad penalty.
That was pretty bad. So Heinton signal box is still there, but as you can see, that is a reused signal box from another location. One of the challenges that I've had making this route, because it is so big, there's like 100 miles worth of track on this route, is how many buildings, how many assets do you create? Now I've created hundreds, if not maybe over 1,000, I guess, over the years that I've been making this. But obviously it comes to a problem with what you can load in, and performance issues, loading times, etc. So some of this route, I guess, may seem familiar, mainly because the assets have been being used in many of the routes. And like this embankment here, was first seen in the Isle of Wight. It wasn't made for the Isle of Wight, it was made for this route, but I just put it in the Isle of Wight, and I think many of our users have used it since in their own routes. But while I could have remade a lot of the foliage, I didn't want to. I wanted to keep, otherwise you get into this cycle of always remaking and recycling. You will never finish. So I tried, once something was made, I tried to move away from it. Otherwise, So, you will see some assets, you think, I've seen that before, and it's kind of, well, this is where it was made for. And everybody else just stole it. I guess what we've got now is we created a fairly large library of assets.
Yes.
And I think the guys do, if they've taken an asset, they will repurpose it and reskin it wherever they can. But there's a couple of assets like the bush line and the embankment line where it is a very popular asset that everybody likes to steal. But towards the end I stopped, so there's a number of new assets there, a large number of assets that are in this route that you won't see anywhere else. I stopped people from taking them. Yeah, it was one of those routes where it was quite hard to rein in Stuart, bless him. He copied my lead by modelling a mile in either direction from the track, where in some places we've modelled and you can't even see it. But in this kind of view, it makes a huge difference. Again, there's an asset that you would have first seen in Woodhead that I created for this route. And where are we at now?
We are about 3 miles from North Road.
So Darlington was a really interesting place put together. One of our content managers, Dan, who pretty much led the project towards the end to see it into QA. He did a real fantastic job of pulling it all together when it was, lots of people pulling against each other. So he modelled Darlington. He's done a lot of the big areas, a lot of the most complex routes of New York and a lot of the London routes. When it gets really difficult and tricky, he's the guy who can come in and make sense of what we should be making, not what you want to make.
Yeah.
And that's otherwise you end up with something like Bishop Auckland, where I try and make everything, and we just can't make everything. But you've got to pick out what's important and what areas the player will see.
Downhill now.
Yes. Pick up speed. Watch that.
Brakes on. I've got the brakes on. We'll be stopping.
Yeah, backseat drive, please.
And I sit here. What's going on in the train is not my problem. Dun, dun, dun. He's a lovely passenger.
He's done well. Kind of shows up in 101 a little bit now. There's sort of 6 years since the 101 was made that the 105 is big improvements have been made.
Of course, there is the second man's seat over here.
I guess in these units there would have been just one driver. You wouldn't have had to have a second person in the seat. I don't think it was compulsory to have two people in the cab. But they did want 2 positions, so I'm not quite sure of the history in that really.
1.3 miles now to North Road, so we're not far off. So itinerary look like that, and then Bagtop platform 6 is our last station.
Yeah, that platform 6 is the one that is. I think it's a car park now.
Aren't they all?
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, I think Newcastle was one of the travesties of a lot of those extra platforms were just covered over.
Another one of those impressive gantries.
So it's about 10-11 miles, I think, from Bishop Auckland to Darlington. But driving at the speeds that we're driving, it does take 25 minutes to get.
Half an hour when I do.
Oh, half an hour, if you're not paying any attention to what you're doing. So obviously we're coming into a huge network of track now, where there would have been Darlington Works, a number of engine sheds, but again, because of the time period we've picked, there's a huge transition from the steam era into the diesel era. A number of conversations about whether the diesel shed should be in, what steam sheds should be in, the roundhouses should be in. Yes, that wasn't wasn't my call, that one.
Your team outvoted you.
That was Ben Jervis. Thought that'd be a good idea. So we are coming into North Road, which is it's a very nice model station, this one. Again, still in use.
I want to go and look at the 25, but I think I probably should concentrate on what I'm doing.
See, I'm not quite sure I like that angle. I think I prefer the much more zoomed in.
Stop there. Let's go and have a look at that 25 and the brake tender.
So again, Ben modelled the brake tender, and a couple of guys worked on the 25. But a very nice addition. I think it was just filled with bricks and old bits of crap. Can anybody tell us what it was filled with? It was just added as weight, I think.
Right, another large penalty. Never mind.
Maybe it was all scrap metal that was in there. I don't know. Right, there's only a mile now to go. So again, if you compare what we've got here to, I guess, what would have been in the original East Coast Main Line, we're just coming in now where we didn't model any of this. I guess the difference in 8-9 years in development. Oh, the standards that we model to now compared to what where we were in 2005, 2006.
The skills and experience have come along so far, haven't they?
Well, the guy Dan, who was part of the original team and part of the original Microsoft Train Sim, he vast experience in the team. But we're quite good with the tools right now. Maybe coming onto the East Coast Main Line. Yeah, see, I think I prefer it where you're zoomed in there. I think it's but a bit like you, I drive with a hood, so I don't need to see the control. I know many people.
I normally drive with the F3 HUD, but just for anyone who's wondering, I'm driving with the F4 HUD so that those who want to see how I'm moving the controls can see that.
For better or worse.
For better or worse.
Yes.
I'm sure there's a green signal in there somewhere. Yeah, there's a green signal.
Yeah, we did. This scenario was flagged very easy. It's an introduction into the route more than anything. This isn't really designed to test you.
Fortunately.
Yeah, they're the ones I can play. So Darlington Station completely remodelled. Track layout is a beautiful thing.
Stunning. It's an unusual looking signal box.
Yeah, that's Bishop Auckland North signal box on through to the ground. I told him not to do it, but he did it anyway. So here we go. Yeah, this is all a car park now. That's how many minutes late?
3.
That's not so bad.
Not terrible. I've been on trains far later than that.
Yeah, so this is the the colour of the station, which is green currently, which I think Kevin is desperate for us to turn to blue. So I think we'll make him happy and change it. So if you fly through to the other end, which we've not put in, and I know I'll get some grief for this, turn around. In the middle platforms, there would have been a model of locomotion number 1, and I can't remember what the other one's called. If somebody could remind me what the other one was at the end of the platform, just there, they would have been on plinths. So
I really love how the light's shining through on that.
yeah,
That's
it does look
amazing.
nice. But you know, I think Chris has captured this station very well.
That was a successful run, apparently.
You've done brilliantly. Well done.
So that was a run from Bishop Auckland to Darlington. Let me just pop it back on the camera. We're back. So I think that's... Let me just turn the audio down. So just want to basically, I think it's probably a good time to have a quick wrap up of what we've looked at today. So we've looked at the Weardale and Teesdale Railway Network, which is it's a route that's coming soon. We don't have a release date for you yet. It's still in development, although it is coming towards the end of development now.
Please.
So if you keep an eye on our usual outlets, such as Facebook, Engine Driver, and Twitter, then you'll get all the latest news. Also, make sure you're subscribed to the newsletter, which you can sign up to via the website. Coming in the pack is the 25, 37, 101 and the Class 08. And then there's a twin pack with the Class 105, all BR green livery. There's a good selection of freight and Mark 1 passenger stock. Park 1s are in...
Blood and custard
Blood
livery.
and custard livery. That's what I thought. Do you remember how many scenarios there are? I think there are 8 or 9, something like that. Scenarios. Driver covering the selection of the different bits of rolling stock and so forth. So you get to drive a wide range of things, doing a wide range of different things. I think that's all there is to cover. Is there anything you think we've missed, Derek?
No, I don't think so. Obviously it's been a labour of love, and I do hope people enjoy it. Obviously, such a big network, it's going to be interesting to see how people create scenarios and enjoy it over the usual A to B type route, and ideas for people to extend it, because obviously, you know, it doesn't end there. So it'd be quite nice to, especially the guys on who do put up their route extensions onto Steam. That you know, there's a lot of good options.
There's always some fantastic routes on Steam Workshop. Isn't
So
there?
one of the things that I've tried to do is where we've made the stations, we've pulled out each one of the station buildings, so you can start placing them individually rather than as a you know, a huge station with a platform. So we're not restricted with, you know, if you are interested in making your own route, making something from our assets, then there's a lot of individual things that you could use as a basis for something else. So.
Okay. Right. So, questions. Now is a good time for questions. Jay is there on the chat, talking away, hopefully making lots of notes for lots of questions for Derek. And Derek's going to get ready.
Don't make me answer them.
So once we've got some questions, after we've done that, it'll be. I think we might have 1 or 2 copies to give away.
What?
I know. So after that, we shall do a giveaway, and get a couple of you some keys. Obviously, the key isn't out. I say we'll get you some keys. The route's not finished yet, so we don't have keys right now. But you'll get the keys as soon as we release the route.
Here we go. Can we see the map of the route? Of course we can.
Right, so if I go back to here, to Derek's fabulous picture, and the route you want to see is that one. That's the map of the route. Bishop Auckland in the centre, obviously that's the focal point of the route. Darlington in the bottom right, Durham top right, Weirhead in the top left,
should probably put the link to the blog. These images are up on the internet to be seen. So,
Okay. So Jay will post the link to Derek's blog.
is the Class 37 model from scratch? Yes, from when I first modelled it. I built it from scratch. It is mine. Now, you're probably asking, is this a different 37 model? No, this is the original 37 model. As I said, as this route's been in production for such a long time, I've been keen to include the models that I made for the route that I made, if that makes any sense. And yes, I can go back and remodel things, but then I would never, ever finish. Next. No more?
Not getting any questions. Come on, folks. We've got Derek. He's right here. And I haven't got the giveaway stuff set up yet. So ask Derek questions.
I'm too shy. I'm too scary. Are there steam trains with the route? No, not with the route. However, there are going to be a number of steam trains following very quickly, I should imagine. So there are a number of steam trains in production that would run on the route. More about those in a bit. However, there are a number of steam trains that are applicable to this route that we already sell. A lot of LNER locomotives that would be suitable for this route. What time era is this? This time era is, I'd say, 1950 to 1965. I've bent the rules a little bit. It's a number of these branch lines would have been closed down in the time period, but as I created the route, I wanted them open. So that's the beauty of the simulation, is that I can play God.
Create the route that you want.
Exactly. You know, there's,
End of the day, it's about having a good, entertaining experience as well as.
Well, that's right. I mean, so I didn't really want to be restricted about what it would have looked like in 1965 or 68 or 72. It was more a case of, this is the feel I want to give. You know, there's a number of stations that would have been closed down, but nobody wants to drive through a closed down station. It was key that I want steam trains for this era. I wanted a steam route, or a route that would, you know, cross the ages. So I didn't really want to tie it down to any one date. So you can drive diesel or steam for this, I think.
Cool.
What's the total track mileage of the route? I think it's pushing 100 miles. I think if you count all the branch lines and the spokes off it, then roughly it's between 90 and 100 miles.
Being a network, of course, it's not 100 miles in a straight line. It's lots of different journeys. And I mean, I love the network routes because you can the number of times I've been playing network routes in the past, and you come back to it, you drive a different scenario. Oh, I've not been down this bit before, and yet you've done hundreds of hours on the route, and you're still finding little.
Even the guys that are making the route, they often got lost. They didn't know where they were.
Mm.
So it'll take a little bit of time to familiarise yourself with the route.
Yes.
Have any famous services been on this route? Either the Mallard, so yes, all of them. The Flying Scotsman. There are a number of photographs if you hunt for them that the Flying Scotsman has been through there. The Mallard, I'm not quite sure if the Mallard has been through, but definitely A4s, V1s. So yes, there's a lot of famous trains that have been through there. The Deltics have all been through. As I said earlier, that on weekends when there's engineering works on the East Coast Main Line, most of the trains were rerouted through this. This was the alternative route through from Darlington to Durham.
Okay. Right, Jay's telling me there's no more questions, so I think we should do a raffle.
Let's do the raffle.
A raffle, sorry, it's a giveaway, it's not a raffle.
No.
There's a difference. Okay, so the giveaway is now open. In order to enter the giveaway, what you need to type is !raffle. !raffle. So if you can type that into the chat, all in lowercase, please, and then you'll be able to you'll get entered into the giveaway. and we'll pick someone as a winner.
So it's not a raffle, but you've got the right raffle.
Yes, I know.
Wow, look at all that.
The normal giveaway system that we use is unfortunately not working at the moment, so we have to use the one built into this other system, which is slightly less flexible. I've seen a couple of people that are using capital letters, so if you can retype it with lowercase letters, that way you can make sure you're in.
So does it include the 105? I saw a question go through there. Would it be including the twin pack, or is it just the route? Was one of the questions.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that would be a yes. Yep.
Yes, the 105 is in the twin pack, isn't
Yep.
it? Yeah. Okay, we'll call that time. I'm going to do a countdown.
It's very high tech, this.
It is.
It's not like the Graham Norton show at all. You've misled me.
P. Schlick, you are our first winner. Congratulations.
Oh yeah, well done. I say well done, he hasn't done anything, he just typed it in.
Good enough for me.
Yeah, well.
We have another copy to give away. So I'm just going to close this one and reset it.
Here we go.
Open a new one.
Oh, the excitement's killing me.
Right. Type it in again, folks. Exclamation mark raffle. RAFFLE.
Go, go,
And
go.
make sure that you type it all in lowercase letters, please.
Can I call Derek, not Steve? I think there's a couple of people teasing me, actually. That's fair enough.
Well, last week Kevin was not Steve number 1.
Oh, I see.
So you're
I
not
see.
Steve number 2.
Okay, I get that. I'm definitely not Steve, number 2.
I always enjoy watching the chat when they're doing this, because you see the humour that the comedians come out and we get.
Well, I've missed it all. I've obviously been so nervous and thinking about what I'm going to say that I've not been able to watch the chat.
There's Bob of Hearts here saying rifle.
I would have wrote Schnaffle.
Snaffle. Trifle or trifle, because I don't know what Ed was thinking, but he's put trifle.
Thank you to the guy who said don't worry, so thank you. It passes so quickly. Was that Boba Fett shakes? What?
That's Jay shaking his fist at Bob of Hearts.
Yeah, that's okay.
Moleman has just asked an interesting question. Do the included scenarios cover the whole route?
Well, I think we cover the majority of it, yes. We've tried to, well, not the whole route, no, because there's a number of options in, obviously, to and from. But yeah, I think we touch all the destinations, yes.
Okay. So we've got our winner, Cool Dude 5. Cool Congratulations.
Dude. I'm going to have to get myself a better name.
So, so that's P. Schlick and Cool Dude 5. You are our winners. Now, as I said earlier on, the route's not actually out yet, so we don't have keys to pass out. However, once the route is released, we shall get those keys to you as quickly as possible. Right. I think we actually are now done.
Thank you very much, Matt.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us, Derek, and giving a really, really in-depth breakdown about this life's work.
And please do, if I've got my dates wrong, do let me know.
Okay. Thanks very much for joining us, everybody. Really appreciate you taking your time. As I said, this was an in-development product, so if you've got any observations, if you've got any feedback, things you think we could do better, things you'd really like to see, that's good too. Let us know by the usual channels on Facebook, Twitter and Engine Driver, and because that feedback really is good. We do take a lot of notice of that, and really appreciate you taking your time to do that. Right, That's it from me.
Okay.
And thanks very much again, Derek,
Bye
for joining
all.
us. And I'll see you again another time. We'll be back on Friday at 5 p.m. next week. Good
Take
night.
care.